Hey guys, Corey Smith here, CoreFX. Coming to you, this is August 13th, 2017. Coming with another pre-week market analysis video here. Um, it's the third week in a row I've been doing it. Been getting a lot of love for it, so I'm going to keep on making them and keep going with them. But to get the week started, I'm going to start with, like I usually do, covering last week a little bit. What currencies performed, what currencies underperformed, news events of the last week, what happened, what's going on, and then I'll get into this week ahead, what to look for, what to expect with some news events, what to look to trade around or keep your trades out for, and what setups I'm looking at to get the week started here. So, starting with last week, we had the strongest performing pairs of the week were going to be the Japanese yen, Swiss franc, and the euro. And we're going to have the weakest pairs being New Zealand dollar, Aussie dollar, Canadian dollar. This week was a picture perfect example of what a risk off move is. Um, Risk aversion, another word for it. Basically, it's when equity markets have sell off and there's uncertainty in the world as far as the riskier investments like equities. And, money kind of moves into safer assets. Japanese yen, Swiss franc have always been known as safe haven currencies. It's where the money goes when there's uncertainty in the world, kind of like gold. And then you've got New Zealand, Aussie, and CAD are kind of the commodity and growth currencies. When there's growth going on, these are going to be the higher yielding currencies and the more growing economy type areas where people want to put their money for more aggressive investment. So obviously, when the opposite's going on, when there's risk off and there's things going on like the political risks going on with North Korea and potential wars out in the Korean area, and U.S. stock market's at the second worst week in the year so far. So it's just a picture perfect risk off week. This is another concept that I teach my students with risk aversion, risk on, and risk off, and how they affect currencies. But this past week was a picture perfect example of it, with the yen crushing it, leading the way, and New Zealand dollar the opposite, getting crushed. So going to the data releases and news events last week, starting with last week on Sunday, New Zealand dollar and inflation expectations, which we went over. It just barely missed, but anything weak right now out of New Zealand's been taken pretty bearishly. So we had the inflation expectations low, and then the CPI out of Swiss franc that was right on par. So there was nothing really going on there. Not a big number to watch, anyways. And then Monday you've got Chinese numbers. They had a trade balance which was higher than the normal or forecasted. Sorry, and this is one of the biggest economies in the world, so their trade balance, as being a manufacturing country, they export a lot, and this is showing that they're continuing to grow. It's continuing to be robust. Their trade balance is better than they thought. So this is bullish for China, which is a big economy, bullish for the world. Um, then you had their CPI numbers missed year over year, and PPI was a little bit lower as well. Um, this is, inflation's still a problem around the world, you can tell, but this isn't that big of a deal. As it wasn't too far off of a miss. Going into Wednesday, crude inventories levels were lower than they've been. They were lower again, like they've been the past few weeks. This is showing, oil has maintained above 48.50 or $48 a barrel, so you can still tell that oil has been recovering a little better, and this is a small help to it, which affects CAD. And then we had Wednesday evening, we had the Reserve Bank of New Zealand meet, and they kept the rates unchanged like it's expected. They're not expected to raise rates until 2019, so there's any rate hikes that they would do would be totally unexpected. So they're not expected to change that. But the quote of the statement was as follows: "It was monetary policy will remain accommodative for a considerable period." Basically, since there's uncertainties all around the world and slow growth, they're continuing to play it by ear and see what the numbers are and react accordingly. Um, so this wording kind of hurt the New Zealand dollar this week, but on top of it, we also had a big risk off move, so that kind of stacked with this. If this wasn't going on, probably wouldn't have been as hard of a hit to New Zealand dollar, but New Zealand dollar got hit pretty hard, and these dovish tones kind of helped set the tone. Um, then we had the pound manufacturing production, which was right on par. Nothing really going on there. Um, Moving into Thursday and Friday, we had the inflation numbers out of the U.S., beginning with the producer price index on Thursday and then the consumer price index. Um, these are two big inflation numbers that come out, and this is the month-over-month report, and they both missed expectations. And as we know, like I've been saying, inflation is what the big target is right now. A lot of central banks are looking for. Inflation's been stagnant. There hasn't been much of it, and this is something that central banks control. Price stability is the purpose of a central bank for the most part, so inflation is one of their biggest things they follow. So this is something currencies we really look for, and since the inflation in the U.S. hasn't really been there, there's no reason for the Fed to particularly rush into hiking rates, so the dollar continues to sell off. We saw continued dollar weakness. No new breakouts this week to the low, but we recovered a little bit and then fell right back down, so we had another bearish week for the dollar. That pretty much covers this week's events. Going into next week's, we've got today, about to be released actually, New Zealand dollars got retail sales. This is obviously the number for the sales of the retail stores. Quarter over quarter is what this number is released. This is going to be another thing that they're watching in New Zealand. If there's a bad number here, I would expect the New Zealand dollar to continue to weaken, but we'll see how that plays out. And then China has industrial production. You can tell by the wording of it what that is. It's another number that to be watched, though. As I said with China, how it affects the entire world, and it also affects Australia and New Zealand pretty strong. And then we have the monetary policy meeting minutes. This is basically a report that follow up from the Reserve Bank of Australia's meeting, going over a little bit more in detail their plan and what they're watching and how they're going to approach what's coming up in the future. So this might not have too much of effect, but sometimes the wording can be followed pretty closely and can have some reaction to the markets. Then you can see we've got inflation numbers out of British pound, CPI, and then as well on Tuesday we have the core retail sales out of the U.S. This is going to be another number to watch, as you know, the growth in the economy of the U.S. is something banks have been watching. I mean, the central bank's been watching pretty closely, and so this is another growth indicator for the U.S. dollar and the economy. Average earnings in Britain, that's, you know, how the average earnings of the economy, people's jobs, how much they're paying. Not too closely followed, but another indicator out of the Great Britain with everything going on with Brexit to watch. You know, we want to see growth over there and see that they're maintaining good numbers. Building permits out of the U.S., I know it's a high category here, but that's not too big of a deal. That's how many new building permits were issued for the construction industry. We've got crude inventory levels like usual, and the FOMC meeting minutes, same as the Australian meeting minutes. Basically, the Fed's just going to go into greater details on their plan and what the future outlook is and what they reported in their statement. Another thing to be closely followed, as some wording in there could cause some market moves. PPI to New Zealand, like I said, this is an inflation number. Australian dollars got their unemployment. This should be a big mover for Aussie, one of the big events of the week. This is a known event, but it's unknown if it's going to cause much movement, so it's a known unknown. This is a known known. We know this is an event coming out. We know it's going to cause some movement, so this will be something I'll be trading around right here. We've got retail sales out of pound on Thursday, and then we have nothing really the rest of the day. This is all not a big deal. And then we've got the CAD CPI inflation numbers coming out of Canada on 8:30 on Friday morning. So this isn't the biggest week. No central bank meetings or anything like that, just some statements, meeting minutes, and some inflationary numbers, retail sales, and one employment number. These employment numbers are another big event to watch, like NFP out of the US dollar. Each country has their own, and when they're announced, they're really closely followed, and you can expect at least a 30-40 pip move off of it. So I look to open trades in that time because it's guaranteed movement, whether it's a stop or a win. Either way, there's volatility, and that's how us traders make money. So this covers this week ahead. Not too much going on, but still some tradable events, and there should be some movements with the geopolitical risk going on with North Korea. And also, if the risk aversion continues and we see the U.S. equities sell off further, then this could be another strong week. But if the equities reverse and continue higher again, then we could see the yen start to weaken again and the risk on move continue. Going over to the charts, we've got the U.S. dollar. As I said, last week we were at a weekly support level. As you can see here, this is a low. Price is falling off really hard. SMA is crossed, hit that weekly support, bounced off of it, then hit this resistance. We see all these wick candles here, tweezer top, shooting star, all these rejection wicks, and then off the 20 SMA price continued downward. And we are now coming down here to potentially retest the low again. We'll see if the dollar bounces or is able to break through that, depending on what's going on. Then we've got the Australian dollar. As you can see, it's been pulling up pretty strong. Hit this high around 80 and has now fallen back and found support right down here around just above 78.50. So we could see it broke the 20 SMA. We could see price roll over now, maybe fill this gap, come back down here, and see if price can continue lower to back to retest this weekly support area, or if this is just a retracement and price is going to continue higher and go back up to retest the highs at 80. Then we've got the pound. It has been in an uptrend. As you can see, I've got it marked here with the higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Price has come down now, and although the wick is lower, you can see here the candle wasn't able to close below the low. So technically, this rebounded out, a little fake out here, came back up above this support level, and it's potentially now, it could either roll over and reverse, or we could see price come back up to retest the high at 129. But price is right now at a pretty pivotal level as it's retested this higher low, and could break through and make a new lower low and reverse the trend here. In the Canadian dollar, we've got a pretty similar picture as with the Australian dollar. Prices have been shooting higher, set a new high under 79.50. Has now fallen down. A little bit more bearish here as we broke through a key level that it broke above. We broke back underneath. Established a little bit of support here on 77.50 and bounced a little bit off of there, but as you can see, the SMA is rolling over. Price is starting to fall off, and it's the same story. It could continue to fall and move low and reverse, or it could recover back up here to this 79 area of this high, right under 79.50. Moving on to the euro. 2 weeks ago we hit a high, and it was the highest high it's hit since it's at a new high since August 2015, so 2 years high. It is now still under this level. It came up to retest it, fell back, found support, came back up, and as you can see here, we are in a bullish flag pattern. This is a high basing pattern, and it typically is a sign that price is going to continue higher. We've got a little bit of a flagpole here that we can use to project where price could go if we get a breakout here. 1-to-1 move, could go back up to here, potentially go all the way back up to 118. But as you can see, price is making a very nice bullish flag pattern here under weekly support. After setting that high, now it's made a new higher low, and we'll see if it's able to make a new higher high here if we've got a bullish week for the euro again. Moving on from the euro, I'll switch to the yen real quick. As you can see, the yen is testing this resistance. All these SMAs crossed over. This is very bullish. Yen's been setting higher highs and higher lows, and an uptrend has now hit strong resistance. We'll see if it's able to bust through this, or if we get a little risk on move in the markets again, might retrace a little and then continue higher, back up to this weekly zone up here at 89. But the yen has been stronger, and it's now testing resistance. We'll see what it does here this week. Moving on to the charts, the actual pairs. I will begin with the euro dollar. Similar picture as with the euro basket currency. You can see it's been setting higher highs, higher lows in an uptrend. Came up, set a high, now has come down, found support. Beautiful hammer candle here, riding it back up to the high, and we'll see if it's able to break this high and continue the uptrend. If it is able to do that, what I'll be doing is waiting for price to come back to this broken resistance, now turn support, and then get in long to continue higher. But this is a pivotal level here. If price is able to break this low, it'll set a new lower low and could see a trend reversal, maybe down to this trend line, or we could roll over. Moving on to the dollar yen. As you can see, we went over it last week, and it was able to continue lower. Broke this low, shot down here. We made a nice trade here at CoreFX on this bearish candle here on this daily. Caught some pips here, rode it down to the low, cashed out some nice profits. So we could expect maybe a little rally here up to retest this area before rolling over, or price could just continue lower down here, right down to the 108.50 zone. This is a strong support on the chart here, but as you can see, it's now at another support level here. Broke out of this one. We'll see how strong the yen is to continue this lower or not. Another chart that I really like this week is the Euro New Zealand. As you can see, it is also testing another high here. It's been in an uptrend, 20 above the 50, above the 200, all sloping upwards, and you can see it came up and hit resistance here at 162. Let's see if it's able to break out of this and then come back to retest for us and continue higher. If we get a daily candle to close above this high here, that'll be very bullish, and I'll be looking to enter that long. Another one I like is the Euro Aussie long. As you can see, this daily trend line was broken last week, as well as this support level, and we have it in an uptrend. Switching to the 4-hour chart, you can see price struggled very long at this daily trend line, was able to break out of the trend line, and then came up and broke out of the resistance, and is now making a little bullish pennant here above this support now, and we could expect to see price continue higher off of this here. Alright, so there's a few pairs I'm watching this week. I got a bigger watch list for the CoreFX students, but if you guys here on YouTube, this is what I'm covering, this is what I'm watching. Went over some stuff for last week, some stuff going on this week ahead, and just giving you guys a little heads up on what to expect this week. Again, it's August, not too much going on, not too many news events this week either, but still should be some good trading opportunities, and we had better than expected, or better than last month. The forecast for some reason is not up, but we have better than expected retail sales as opposed to the last one, so this is showing growth in the New Zealand economy. This report just came out, so we will see how the New Zealand dollar reacts to it. We go over to the currency strength to start this week. We've got New Zealand, yen, dollar, top performers. New Zealand's probably gaining some strength here off that report. And then we got the Aussie, Swiss, CAD. As you can see, we still got some of this risk off going on here. But the Swiss francs was strong last week. It's selling off a little. We'll see how this week continues on. But thank you guys for tuning in for another week here. I'll see you guys next Sunday. On Wednesdays, I also release videos with new content every other Wednesday, covering random stuff, Forex related, trading related. Check out my website, corefxtrading.com, if you're interested in becoming a student of mine. I mentor and train students. We have on my Instagram, core.fx, up about 15% since the beginning of July. So we're doing pretty good. We've caught about 1,000 pips. And we're having a good couple months here. So if you're interested in training, check out the website, shoot me an email, and make sure you follow, like, subscribe, everything to this YouTube page. If not, you can fuck off. Just fucking around there. But seriously, like, subscribe, comment if you like what you see here, and I'll keep it coming every Wednesday for you guys. Appreciate the love and support, everybody, and have a good week.